So, as I was saying, we're going to do a quick roll call here. Any reps from Tulalip? Anybody from Tulalip? Sockswaddle? Stillaguamish? Got one Stillaguamish? Swinomish? No Swin yet? Samish? Upper Skagit? Lummi? Nooksack? North Sound? All right, yeah, okay. So, first of all, just want to thank each of you once again for coming out today and gonna open up with a song and call a few people forward and we'll get into it, get into the program today. You can all kind of pray in your own way and each day, we meet the day with a prayer, with a thought. There's always somebody out there that needs that extra uplift or whatever At this time, I want to call forward Liz Baxter.
I wasn't expecting to speak. Thank you so much. It's like always so moving to hear the songs echoing off the walls and staying in our hearts. I still feel the vibration of that. I want to welcome all of you and also everyone who's joining us for the live streaming. This is the third day of the North Sound Accountable Community of Health Partner Convening. So we've had 2 days so far of about 120 people coming together to talk about how we can make this region a place where everyone feels that they belong, that they're nourished, that they can thrive. And we start every day and every meeting with a land acknowledgement statement. But this is the first time where we've had 3 days where we've gone deeper than the land acknowledgement statement, and we have been talking about how the tribes in this region, and seeing the logos up there, have enriched our work, have made our work much more meaningful and profound because of what we've learned and what's been shared with us. And today, I just can't even imagine being part of a better day to anchor our work than to have you sharing these videos with us of, you know, just pieces of what we can continue to learn from each of the tribes here in the region. So I have a lot of gratitude. It's been 3 days of just shaky voices because I'm overwhelmed with how much gratitude I carry for everyone and what they share with us. So thank you, and we look forward to today. And I don't know who I'm giving this microphone to. So Daryl, is it you or is it? All right, Daryl, thank you so much.
Stand up.
Yeah. Iskachil. I just really want to thank all of you for being here today. This marks the kind of like the end of our work for this part of our journey with Liz and her wonderful team at ACH. And just for Liz and for all you young people here, and like most of you are young to me now, but yeah. But you know, it was my Uncle Vernon when I first got elected to serve my people. His advice to me is that the first thing you do in the morning is you ask yourself, what am I going to say to my people today? And you begin with that meditation for how you're going to help your people every morning. So it's a good practice for all of us to do that and service to our people and love for our people. And this journey that we're on together, this healing journey. And what we have today are just 8 really short stories of where each of us as tribal communities, as family, are representing, these stories represent different parts of our healing and how we take care of ourselves, take care of our family and our community. So it's a great honor for Children's Setting Sun to be partners with ACH, and it was a great honor for us to be part of your community. And a little bit of your story, and bringing it all together as one story and these things that we can learn from one another and pass it on. And that's our job. That's what Anton and I represent. We're passing on what his grandfather and my mother, their work they did together 50, 60 years ago, you know, and we're just here picking up where they left off. So, Haishka, each and every one of you for being here, and I hope we can have some conversation after we show all of the videos, and we'll have some food for you, and don't leave because we want to recognize all of you too. So, thank you, Haishka.
So now we'll get started.
My name is Joseph Johnson. My ancestral name is Wyaksted. For Racole Creek Canoe Club, I'm the skipper. In coordination with my wife, we do a lot of the coaching and training and just really taking care of our crew. Last year's championship Sunday, the current was ripping a little bit harder than I had expected. One of the major parts of a canoe race is the turn. My main job is to make sure our canoe stays on course. I fell off course a little bit. We tried turning a little too soon. The current caught us and we just missed the turn. That was a tough loss.
It wasn't anybody's fault that we missed that turn. My dad has always told us real winners can take a loss. So we went home and trained hard the next day.
My name is Lana Johnson. My Indian name is Haitsalitsa. I come from an Nooksack and Swinomish tribe. My dad is Rick Edwards. He is the owner of Racole Creek Canoe Club. He introduced me to paddling at a very young age, so I carry a lot of those teachings with me today, and I share those with my children and our paddlers today.
Paddling truly saves lives. It gives our people a sense of self-respect, and it gives you a place to be, a place to belong. It's truly our way of life as Coast Salish people. Through paddling, I learned about teamwork, discipline, commitment, and when you bring those aspects of leadership into other aspects of life, it just helps you be successful.
The testimonies of people's growth through paddling are countless. The lack of wellness in our people these days stems from the historical trauma that our people had to endure, the suffering and the near genocide of our people, and the way our culture and our beliefs were ripped away from us, our language was stripped from us. I really think that is the root of why a lot of our people throughout Indian country are suffering with addiction, you know, and I think the canoe way of life really gives us something to believe in, and it instills power and strength within our hearts. Our ancestors, our elders, our old people were so smart in how they set us up to live. You take care of your body, you take care of your mind, your spirit, walk with respect, walk with love. It's so simple.
It's a dying sport, but my dad reminds us that it's a generational sport. Our canoeing stems from his ancestors, and now we share his teachings with our children, his grandchildren.
Canoeing it's a way of life. A lot of our life lessons are learned on a canoe. When you see all the canoes that are sitting idle, it really makes me and my wife feel real grateful that all my paddlers, they're taking care of our canoes and keeping them alive. They're filling the seats.
At Nooksack, we focused on teaching the youth the canoe way of life to prevent drugs, alcohol, suicide, and opioid abuse. The youth that were part of that program are still paddling today as adults, and they're still living a drug and alcohol-free way of life.
We keep training our little ones because one day they're gonna sit in our seats. My dad says that Racole Creek is set for generations to come.
It's called war canoe. You have all these different little battles going on within your own canoe, within your own self, that each battle has to be won. And that's a competition of getting through that battle, reaching forward and taking the next stroke. Stomach Sunday, a lot of people call it Championship Sunday. We call it the Super Bowl of our canoe race. And I got up and just went and looked at the water and sat at the water, and tide's going out, wind's blowing this way. Where do we line up? What's the current going to be at the turn down there? Once our mind is set, we go down, we get in the water, and we take care of business. It's called war canoe racing. We get our game faces on and we're ready to go to war.
All the elements of the tide, the water, the distance, the turns. To win Stomach is a huge accomplishment, and that's our goal.
Stomach helps set up our youth to have an opportunity to participate in our culture and to be successful. We all come together to race and to uplift the Lummi Nation.
This whole season, my main goal was not to miss a turn. And from the time the starting horn went off all the way to that first turn, don't miss it, don't miss it, don't miss it. 1 and 2, they put their paddle in to turn it up front, and I turn it in the back, and I'm really happy to say we didn't miss it.
We got our composure and we got around the turn and we finished the race together, and we just held our heads high and did our best.
My wish is that, we keep the circle growing and keep using our canoes as vessels to carry our people back to one another in the culture and strengthen each one of us in our own identity and affiliation with one another. My ancestral name's Halitzaliga. It comes from Samish Island. My English name is Leslie Eastwood. I'm a citizen of Samish Indian Nation. We're here on Samish territory. My role with our canoe family is I've been named Sila, which in our language means grandmother. And that's kind of because I was part of bringing the canoes back home to Samish. Today we were waking up our canoes. Since 2019, because of the COVID-19 virus, we've been in a pretty strict lockdown here at Samish. We've all really just been heartbroken about that. It's been so hard to miss one another and miss the experience of being out in our canoes as well. So today we were waking them up after a really long sleep, apologizing to them for not being able to be with them during that long period of time. The canoe has been absolutely central to bringing me home here to Samish in a more profound way than anything else. I can remember watching the canoes coming down the channel at Swinomish. In 2000, we had no canoe that was a traveling canoe. We had no racing canoes at that time. And I remember standing there watching the canoes coming into shore and coming up the channel and just talking amongst ourselves and imagining what the ancestors must have felt like, to see canoes coming in and visiting. And within a couple years, we had our own canoe, and just really happy we were able to bring the canoes here to bring our people back. on Tribal Canoe Journey, there are protocols and expectations about how people conduct themselves. And so an aspect of that that really relates to wellness is the setting aside of any drugs or alcohol or any substances that people might be inclined to use that are harmful to themselves. For some people, this might be the first time that they're doing that, of saying, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to, not indulge in any of these substances and stuff for this period of time. And what can end up happening when somebody takes that time to go experience, a different way of being with people, is that they can find out, it wasn't that hard. And not only it wasn't that hard, like I actually feel better about myself for having made that choice. And so it can be something that can translate into the rest of their life year round. Bringing our young people and our old people together here today, that means so much to me, to see that fullness of life for our community, and the richness of what the old people have to offer of their memories. That's keeping the oral tradition of our people alive. Hearing those stories and being able to pass those on is part of who we are.
I've been homeless a few times in my life. Living out of my car, the back of my car, and just parking at places. I was a severe alcoholic, very severe. I was drinking every day, drinking a case of beer, fifth of whiskey. Sometimes you have these epiphanies and you're asking the Creator, why did you do this to me? Why did you, why am I here? What is my purpose? I'm Rebecca Hunter. I am the Director of Comprehensive Recovery Solutions for the Tulalip Tribes. Why this position came about was we felt like we have all these programs. We have the medical clinic, we have the family services, we have the wellness courts, we have all these services, but for some reason they're not talking to each other, they're not communicating with each other. There's gaps in the services where the addicts are falling through the cracks and we're still not helping them. So they created this position and hired me. Where are those gaps in the program? Where can we address those? Find those solutions, and that's how I created the recovery team.
It started being effective right away, because what we noticed, and it happens in a lot of governments, is that programs operate in silos. And so even though there's a lot of good work happening, we have to uncover areas where we're not providing that cohesiveness across the board to make sure that we're serving people the best we can.
We meet every Tuesday at 1:30 to coordinate where we can work as dedicated professionals to find the gaps and try to fill them. And so that's my job with Rochelle, is to find those gaps.
This year, what we're doing is we're pulling together all programs that interface with our addicted population to make sure that we're strategically addressing their needs, because we continue to have high levels of addiction. We have had some overdoses in our community, and every time that happens, it creates a great amount of grief for our community. So we're trying to close the loopholes and do anything we can within our services here at Tribal Government to make sure that we can capture people who may have fallen between the cracks before.
We're going to do pre-treatment before somebody goes to treatment. When you go in and have an assessment, They say sometimes, well, we can't get you in until next week. Sometimes the person gets frustrated because they're still using, right? And they just go, I'm going to go back out and use. And then they have to go back out and find them. And this just keeps recurring. So we thought we could use the shelter as a pre-treatment. So when we get those clients that take an assessment and are going to treatment, we could stabilize them in the shelter, get them all the wellness things that they need to get them better to a point where they're physically able to be okay when they go off to treatment. Some of them are probably coming off the streets, don't have any clothes, so we can get them clothes. We can hook them up with a counselor and connect them. We have to meet the people where they're at. We have to bring them in. It's not an 8 to 4:30 job. It was 11 o'clock at night when I found my inspiration to be healed.
A holistic approach to healthcare means that each touch point within the health system isn't singular. The integrated health system that we are continuing to strive for has mental health co-located with our health system. We have massage therapy that we provide acupuncture, we have the optometrist, we have a physical therapist, all co-located at our health clinic to try to address these needs from a really holistic approach. When we're sharing information across the organization, someone could be anywhere from court to the Healing Lodge to the diabetes program and be sharing services that are happening across the government. We have a lot of resources. We are offering a lot of innovative approaches to health. We just have to improve on how we share it with each other within the organization and then how we're promoting that to our tribal members. With every single program that interfaces with our recovery programs, we had a retreat and now we're going to meet on a regular basis to make sure that we're advancing those goals that we created at that retreat in the name of service for our tribal members. And Rebecca is a great addition to the team. She's a recovering addict herself. She's so authentic and genuine about the experience that she's had to get her to this place in her life.
I think my passion for recovery solutions was through my own life experiences. I suffered a lot of hardship and trauma, domestic violence, drug and alcohol addiction, just not having a lot of understanding of who I was, so I went through a lot and went through some very hard decisions in my life. And I feel sometimes like the Creator gave me a second chance.
Salmon have always been a very important piece of our lives. They're in our creation stories, just like all the tribes here in Washington along the coast. They're key and central to our mental, physical, and spiritual health and well-being.
Without salmon, I don't know where we would be, and I don't think I want to.
I'm Sean Yanity, fisheries manager for the Stillaguamish tribe from Arlington, Washington. In 1980, I started working fisheries, and I worked for Department of Fisheries for 6 years, everything from a fish culturist, fish tagger, to maintenance, to security guard. Salmon has always been a key part of our traditional food, our health. They're in our songs, they're in our artwork, they're in our spiritual practices, and that goes right into our ceremonies. Our families fish together, You know, it's a generational thing. Grandparents taking their grandchildren out onto the river, harvesting clams, going crabbing, you know, going fishing. It's a fabric that's just woven into our identity. And we can't lose that.
My name is Katie B. Zaiva. I am a Stillaguamish tribal member. I also serve my tribe as a deputy fisheries manager and a councilwoman. I first started working for the tribe in 2011, and I started at behavioral health programs and realized how heavy that work was and just knew it wasn't going to be sustainable for me or my spirit. Came over to Natural Resources as an admin assistant. That's when Sean started pulling me along to all these meetings and seeing how dismal the returns were for salmon really sparked something in me, and I decided I needed to serve my tribe that way. And it was instant passion from the moment I stepped into the work. So many of our tribal members are struggling with chemical dependency issues, and I see a real strong connection with that and the fact that we don't have these salmon here to give people that purpose. I think because we don't have that right now, we're seeing a lot more of our tribal membership turn to, you know, drugs to kind of heal that trauma instead of turning to the traditions. You know, I've never struggled with chemical dependency personally, but I have so many relatives who do, and this is my way to try and bring them some health, some wellness back.
Back in the day, you know, we had salmon running almost all year round. You had spring and summer Chinook, you had fall, winter Chinook, summer, winter steelhead, and coho, chum, pinks. But the Chinook has always been a key central part of our culture.
There is no subsistence fishing for us on Chinook. There is no commercial fishing for us on Chinook. And in my 30 years, it's just always been that way. So I'm really working hard to try and change that.
The harvest portion of it isn't the big impact compared to loss of habitat. There's only one way we can make a huge difference in the habitat issues is if we own the land. And so from the year 2000, we had 20 acres of land that was along the river. And so now we're close to 2,000 acres that is strictly for natural resource protection or treaty resources and salmon habitat. We got a couple spots over here that we tore dikes down on, created some meandering side channels in here. If we don't get our handle on habitat issues, we're going to have a struggle even maintaining our hatchery population. The impact of all the highways and the things that are being put into the soils and the damage that has been done, whether it's intentional or unintentional, has changed water temperatures, has changed the health of the environment. You know, we eat the salmon, which we already know in Puget Sound has high PCBs, metals, copper, you know, all these toxins, arsenic, all that stuff in our clams and our salmon. So when we eat that food, we're taking on them poisons as well. It does change the health of our community, the diabetes, heart disease. In the early 80s, Fish Committee back then, they decided to work on saving the Stillaguamish stock instead of just pumping out fish to catch. They went on the vision that we're gonna restore our run. We started with a very small operation. I think they had 2 bathtubs, and that's what we started raising our fish in. We're bathtubs, and through the years, we've been able to maintain the population and level it off so it hasn't gone extinct.
You know, we've got 900 some odd fish coming back every year for Chinook. That's it. And in the next decade, we could see them go away if we don't continue to push hard.
We got to do something. We've got to leave something in place for our future generations.
When I think of who we would be without salmon, it's not the prettiest picture.
The loss of salmon would be a loss of our identity. In order to live out our culture, we have to have salmon to fish. We have to have salmon come back to the waters and thrive, just for not our spirituality, but also for the environments. You know, the health of the land is lost out. You know, farmers never used to have to spray their fields to replenish the nutrients because the salmon provided that. Not anymore. And so it affects everybody's health.
With 2 little boys at home, I want to make sure that they never have to figure out what a life without salmon looks like. And I want to make sure that their kids and the next 7 generations after that don't have to understand what a life without salmon would even look like. It's just so disturbing to me to even consider it. It's dark.
When you're hiking, it's just you. Easy to get lost in thought, easy to get lost in all the weight that you're carrying. Every time you take a step, you got to release some of that weight, some of that pressure you have on you. You'll open yourself up more when you're hiking. I am James Ironheart from Soxwattle Indian Tribe. Soxwattle is a unique place. It is located near the town of Darrington, Washington. Soxwattle was originally in Sauk Prairie, and back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the town of Darrington burnt down the longhouses, and we got relocated here after we got done helping the Forest Service map out the Cascade Range. The weather is so unpredictable that you could have rain here, but then when you go over the mountain pass, you can get snow in July. I was doing writing assessment, and I needed more practice with writing. So I started asking around some of our elders, and then they would always say that we would hike over the pass. And that brought me to the idea of, hey, let's try hiking over the pass.
I'd spend the summers up here with my grandfather, and he would tell me there was a number of different trails that went up and over across Cascade Mountains. When James started talking about it, I always just started to get excited because, you know, geez, if we can hike some simple trails, I'm going to go along.
Trekking poles.
So make sure when you're out, always get a good flashlight.
Yeah, get a good flashlight. Excuse me.
No, be quiet. Just so we have it. Oh, okay.
Why is it down there?
Because we're asking for permission to go down this trail. Come on, let's go get our stuff.
Okay.
Because we are humans that share territory with the plant life, the animal life, and the bug life. We have to ask permission to use the trails because this is their home. The Big Walk helps out with health in many different ways. That definitely there is mental health that happens because you can't go on the Big Walk and carry all that weight with you. And as soon as you do, you're going to want to go into the woods and start releasing that there healthily. What you bring into the woods is what you have. So if you can get rid of it there and you don't have to carry that weight, then that's awesome. That mental break that you got to push through, it can hit multiple different ways. Some people get grumpy, some people get angry, and they push through that. And then some people get like sad and emotional, and then you really got to push through that. And the only thing we can do as other hikers is pull some weight off from you, but that's only your physical. It's not your mental stuff.
You know, the first hike was being funded by the Department of Health. you know, because we have a number of people who are trying to combat diabetes here. And we wanted to get people more active and interested in having a stronger, active life.
Of course, because you're out in the mountains, you're backpacking up to 25 to 45, 55 pounds on your back, you're gonna start losing weight.
Those trips were just awesome, you know, to see, you know, the sights and everything. And then to know, okay, at some point, you know, our people did travel these paths.
Bear paw.
We were going to just take our time and appreciate everything around us. And it was a chance to share with our young ones, you know, the different plants our people used to eat.
You'll see all sides of yourself when you hike. Some the good sides, the bad sides, and all of you when you hike. And to be able to push through and go through some emotional stuff while you're out there. And like I said, it's a place to go lose some of the weight that you carry with you.
My name is Dinah Fair. I'm the housing director here, and I'm an enrolled Elimination. Last month was 35 years here for me at housing. I started my career in housing as a counselor and eventually worked myself about 20 years ago into the director role. Old Mutual Help Homes, I think, was the first project, and there was 20 of those. The next project was McKinsey. We started out with 35 units there, and now we have over 150 units. We have 118 apartments at Quina. We've also helped build and construct the youth academy. Also, we built the Northwest Indian College dorms, you know, and we built Little Bear Creek for the elders. This most recent project, the Schlangen Village, is a unique project because it was built around what we would need for people to be successful. It was at the time we needed to start building something to help people get well and build it for the kids. This is really new to us as tribal members, getting the drugs coming into the reservation. But this younger generation that are just below me, they're into the drugs, you know, which either hit around, you know, the late 90s, the early 2000s. Schlangen, the name that we chose, is its definition is the way of life. We hear a lot about people practicing their Schlangen, you know, out in the waters or in their ceremonies, a way of life. And so we looked at this as Schlangen could be a better way of life.
There's a lot of different reasons as to why people are there. One thing I really like about the commonality of the population is that nobody judges anybody else. You know, we all have our history. It's not about perfection, it's just about honesty and accountability and growth. And that's all we're looking for. We designed the community specifically for the concept of community. It was designed specifically so there'd be group interaction with the quads. We have doors opening up to other doors. It's all intentional. The porches are facing one another. It's designed specifically so that we have women's groups, men's groups, and weekly gatherings. But what does it look like to create community? The community itself is really the people.
Here we'll go trick-or-treating on.
One of the requirements for moving in is that they go through a psychological evaluation. And what I'm evaluating is honesty and accountability. The whole idea about the community is that if someone is honest, then they recognize there's something they want to change. And if they're accountable, that means they're willing to do it. Lots of people want housing, but we're not there to provide housing. We're providing an opportunity for people to change their lives.
I was drinking to cover up pain, but I'm here at Schlangen and I'm happy.
I'm thankful for having this place to let my kids be free. It feels like home.
We moved into this Jelanga village, got the kids here with us. It's really nice to finally have our own place, like to call home.
There's a story behind these young families. Most of these are tied to some sort of opiate has hit their family in some way, but they have come a long ways. Housings are crucial for any individual to be able to get their structure together. You could do all this counseling for them, but if they didn't have a place to go, they come back and they're a mess all over again. Here, at least, they got a structure. They know where they're gonna go. They know where their kids are gonna get off the bus at. So that's what we geared to wrap around with. So we know they have a house, then we can help them.
Housing is what everybody needs. And so housing becomes just a natural hub for a wraparound. And all the other programs come around that to support their clients and then bringing other people together to talk about our families. You know, where are they? What do they need?
I think this whole thing is about children. It's really about the children having a safe place. These parents aren't bad parents. You know, they've learned what not to do because what happened to them, and they're just happy that they have a second chance.
I grew up fishing with my grandfather most of my life, learning everything from my grandparents about, you know, that loving, caring, and sharing, traveling with them to different communities, helping out any way they can. Our grandparents always taught us how to walk our culture. They told us it takes a whole community to help one person.
We lost enough Native people to addiction. We knew this to stand their ground, help each other out, show the loving, caring, and sharing. Show our people that we're all here to help each other, all here to help.
When I grew up, our biggest drug was alcohol. I didn't really know nothing about the pills or nothing until my oldest son got into it. And I lost my oldest boy at the age of 19 to overdose, a heroin overdose. And that week that we lost my son, and we lost 4 others in that same week here in Swinomish. Our council at that time said, well, we need to do something to save our people. So they said to go ahead and start building on the Gwallich, start getting it ready, getting it going. I've been there for 4 years now. November 13th will be 4 years for me working for the Gwallich.
When the Senate decided to open up Deed Gwallich, they wanted to actually provide healing.
Yeah, you made it in today. That's
It's never going to be a dose and go like some other treatments, meaning they're not just going to come in and get their medication and out the door.
schedule. Like, you get to pick and choose what groups you come to. You just need to attend.
Deed Gwallich is a wraparound service of medication-assisted treatment, intensive outpatient, substance use counseling, mental health counseling. We have a mental health prescriber, primary care, educational groups. Our motto is to reduce barriers and provide quality care treatment.
No other clinic offered transportation when we started, and it is a big deal because a lot of people don't have a license. A lot of people can't drive. Transportation is really important to help people get the help that they need. We cover 3 counties. We go door to door in Skagit County, and Island County, and Whatcom County, picking them up at the homes and bringing them home after. My boss asked me, she says, what's your dreams? What's your dreams and your goals of this job? Our grandparents, when they were sitting on that council, they always just say, it's not for today, it's for our grandkids, our great-grandkids. What are they gonna have? We're not sure what we have. They asked me what my dream was, and I said, my dream is to take care of my people. I remember growing up seeing a lot of people that walked down these dark roads to get down to the north end of the reservation, and it was really hard. So I started this Fadob's transit bus. Starts, you know, from 7 in the morning to midnight. It's for the people to, you know, get where they need to be, their jobs, you know, get to the store and get them home safe.
I don't have a driver's license. I don't drive. This has helped out a lot in my life from where I've came. It means a lot to have the service to help the elders to get to their appointments when they need to get there.
After, you know, getting the transit going, my next goal was to take over all medical and dental transportation. Today, I have 3 medical and dental transporters that work in Seattle 3 times a week, you know, Children's Hospital or anything with medical. Our elders are getting all of their appointments that they need. We're not charging, we're not making no money off of it. It really comes out in that loving, caring, and sharing that, you know, was taught to us.
Our hands go up to everybody. Goes up, especially to all each, our family. To walk together, to get our people back. So these ones right here have something to live for.
In 2013, I lost my son to an overdose. I said, I want to do something in Swinomish. To my sister, said, she was like, a march? I was like, yeah, that sounds, you know, we'll do a march. First time we did a march and got together and ordered like 50 shirts and marched down the road all the way through the community. We started drumming and singing to fight for our streets back, to fight for our community back, praying that, you know, we help one person. The next year we had to buy 100 shirts and 200 people showed up. And like this year I said I bought 1,000 shirts and I probably got about 50 shirts left out of that 1,000. I hope that someday my kids are sitting here talking about their grandparents, talking about how they're gonna hand this down to their grandkids, and you know, one day, you know, soon, I hope we'll get most of these drugs off the reservation. You know, all we can do is believe in the prayer, believe in that love, and believe that we're always gonna be here for each other.
My family given name is Wichalitza. I originally was born and raised on the Lummi Reservation, born in Fort Bellingham and raised by my grandparents right from birth. My mother felt she could not take care of me and asked my grandparents if they would take care of me and raise me. Even many of our own people don't recognize the impact of historical trauma. You know, we've all heard the stories about the impact of the boarding schools and what happened to our ancestors, you know, our elders from generations before, how they were taken away from their families and placed in boarding schools. They were taken away from their families and, you know, given different names in some cases and not allowed to practice the cultural traditions and or speak the traditional language. Even my generation, we didn't really seem to understand the impact of some of that trauma that happened to some of our ancestors. There was reasons for now that we're learning that many of those grandparents and parents, they lacked the parenting skills when they were in the boarding schools, when they were taken away from their families and they lived in the dorms, and they didn't have contact with their families. So I lived at Lummi and born and raised there, and we lived in a very humble 2-room house on Scott Road originally. That was the house that we lived in when we were small. We had kerosene lamps, and the lanterns, gas lanterns, is what we used for light in the, when we do work on our homework and things. We would have to go to the old gym where the college is now to get the water. We would have to haul the water to our house. It was like a big family for the people that lived within the reservation when I was growing up. We all start from somewhere. I started from the very beginning. I was lucky enough to be able to work in the after school. I don't know what they called it then, but it was like the Opportunity Council. I would get off the bus there and answer the phones. So that was like in 1975. I completed high school, and then I moved and married and was eligible to be enrolled at Upper Skagit. So I relinquished my enrollment at Lummi and enrolled at the Upper Skagit tribe. They had a position as the administrative manager for the health clinic. Maureen was the general manager for the tribe at the time, and she moved me into the health clinic to manage the business office for the health clinic. Then she asked me if I would be willing to travel with her to go to some of the meetings, and that was when the Northwest Portland Area Health Board was just forming during that time. And she said, well, now we got one more step, and that's for you to get on the tribal council. I said, no, I don't really want to do that. And she kept saying that to me, and I was young and I didn't really know. I didn't really have an interest in it at the time. She said, you're enrolled here now. If you really want to make a difference, you got to serve on the tribal council. And I had told her the story about my grandmother when I was growing up, when I was starting high school. She said, you can be whatever you want to be. You have to remember that you're not only going to be working for yourself and your family, you work for all Indian people. So she kind of tricked me. She said, well, I want you to remember what your grandmother told you. This is just another step in growing up. I ended up winning the election by 1 vote. 1 vote. 1 vote makes a difference. So I was a part of the development of this community because I was elected on the council right at 1980. It was overwhelming for me because I really didn't know what I was in for. I was able to then bring to the forefront other health and social service issues to the tribal government and not have only the highest priority be the natural resources. It took me some time to learn how to navigate the channels that we needed to go through to get change. You know, I've worked in the health field pretty much my whole term. One of the things that I'm most proud of, and it's just been recent in the last 5 years, when Governor Inslee was elected, he re-established the public health, foundational public health. And what was it that the state was financially obligated to provide across all of the counties for all the citizens in the state? And they had not considered tribal governments as being sovereign within the state at the time, and he had not had that experience. Many of the departments that had responsibility for policy decisions with healthcare access didn't even realize that for every federal dollar that comes into the state has an obligation to the tribal governments in Washington. But he reached out to the tribes and asked the tribes if there was a tribal leader that was willing to serve on his executive advisory council for the establishment of the State Public Health Foundational. And so then I became his co-chair for the statewide with mayors and county commissioners across the state from the various counties on his advisory
Did
committee.
you find that they knew anything about Indians? Or
No, they did not know nothing.
So you had to start over.
And some of them were interested in knowing more about it. They just didn't know how to ask questions.
Yeah.
And they were very grateful for the information that right from the get-go. I mean, I wasn't going to let them get away with nothing. We have always looked at the whole person. That's the difference between tribal people and non-tribal people. The well-being of our spiritual and our physical and our mental health, it's all a part of the person. We're not well within our mind, it can impact our physical health. The medicine wheel circle is the way of life that the tribal people have always lived. We have to be well completely in order to survive. Being humble. The title of tribal council, tribal chairman, tribal vice chairman, that it doesn't change me as a person. I'm still your auntie, your grandmother, your neighbor. And my door is always open, and I don't consider myself being above anyone. What I've learned over many years of work now is that one person can't do it all. You have to team up with others that have similar issues, concerns, or problems. Personally, my strength is my spiritual life. I practice with the winter smokehouse. I take time off during the winter months to participate in that activity, and that's when I travel around and participate with all of the other tribes, and it's like learning and listening to the stories that it re-energizes me. I remember growing up, many of the the elders at the time would gather at the old smokehouse down by the river. And that was a time when the kids, we as kids at the time, we were put in a corner and told to be quiet and listen and you don't move. That was just the way it was. And it didn't matter. The elders would tell kids at that time, if you were not being quiet and not listening, you were scolded in front of everybody. You can be whatever you want to be. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You can be whatever you want to be, but all I want you to remember is that whatever it is that you do, you think about not just yourself, your immediate family, but you think about all Indian people.
Sound ACH, but just wanted to break the silence a little bit and share what's on my heart. That's something that we're told too, that you have something on your heart, you express it, you don't take it home because somebody might need to hear that. But I just wanted to share that much, and then if we can bring the food. Ask my relative, but ask my relative Wichalitza to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Antone. I just couldn't allow the opportunity to go by to share a story. I was attending the Region 10 HHS consultation with all the tribes of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. And we were meeting in Alaska at that time, and it was when our late Willie Jones Sr. was the chairman of the Lummi Nation at the time. And Secretary Thompson, who was the secretary at the time, was facilitating the meeting. He had come into Alaska earlier than the meeting, and some of the tribal leaders, and it was the first time that the secretary had brought his team, his full senior management team with him out to the region. And so they visited some of the Alaska villages before the consultation to get a sense of what some of the tribes' issues and concerns were. And it was, lo and behold, we with the first day of the meeting, and one of the Alaska village leaders started the session out by having the invocation, and then there was the secretary had raised the challenge and stated that while he was out at one of the villages, that he had been challenged by the village representatives take a plunge into the water. And he shared that story with all of the leaders that were there. And our late Willie Jones Sr. stood up and invited the secretary to travel on his travels to Lummi Nation during the time of the Lummi Squamish festival, and that he would be able to experience getting on one of the canoes. And he gave the secretary a challenge, just like the Alaska people challenged the secretary. Go into that water and see how much better you will feel when you come out. And it became a joke, the challenge that was given to him. But the late Willie Jones said, you know, I have worked, and I have also been a part of the canoe, and the healing that we get when we go on to those canoes, out on that water, the things, the animals that are in the water, and it gives us healing, and the songs that come to us while we're out on that water. We can't share, it's hard to put in words how that happens. So the secretary said, well, I really appreciate your challenge, and I definitely will be visiting your nation. And it just is an example, and these stories that have been shared with everyone, and everyone that's here today, my hands go up to you, Haishka Darrell, for your team, sharing our stories.
So as we go into a table song, just want to thank my cousin again for her words. We have gluten-free, vegetarian lunch over here, and then they'll be handing the rest out over here. That's just like a regular lunch, but we'll share a song and go into some lunch.
Oh
speak? Or you want to go down to this? What they sing today, witness today.
All right, we're going to move along, and at this time we'll ask Rebecca if you come up and share some words about the films today. We'll be calling upon, representative from each tribe that we mentioned earlier, if there's reps here, but at this time we'll turn it over to Rebecca.
Hello. Rebecca Hunter, I'm from Tulalip Tribes. And geez, what a blessing it is to be here amongst all of you. And my words, I can't even say how I feel about the work that's been done. And my hands go up to all the great work that was put into it and all the people that participated. I was just sharing it with one of my tribal cohorts, is that, we all do the same good work together. We're all related, and I wish, that maybe this would bring us all closer together, knowing that we're all doing the same work. Tulalip is struggling in recovery just like all the rest of the world and the tribal nations, and I would like to put some of my money forward in my budget to maybe have an intertribal conference in January and invite all of my neighboring tribes to work with me to battle this addiction, fentanyl and opioids. And so I will be getting in touch with everybody, and maybe we can, bring some of our traditional methods and just share as people. Thank you.
Thank you for your words, and that really is needed in all our communities. Thanking you for and prayers that that goes good. The pathway opens up for that to happen. I'm going to call our brother Sam Barr up, representing Stillaguamish.
Asi Sam Bart's in a snat, Jochs Amison, Klalu Jochs Obs, Judd. Schels Jason, Tiet, Uchachat, Straight, Tiet, Stelmoch, so Schels Awson. This movie, this thing of moving pictures, it's medicine. It's truly medicine. It's sacred work that you all have done. I want to thank you all for your work. Want to take the time to say that your film crew is very respectful, and we are honored to have them in our territory. You have really good people working for you, and it's a pleasure to see our people and our stories told on the screen here. I hope that these will be shared with all the different tribal administrations and programs. There's a lot of inspiration to be drawn from these stories. I'm reminded of the words from my auntie Quistania, Rosie Caillou. She says that we're all the same but different. Each one of these stories, I'm sure we all could identify with in different parts of our community, and we should feel like we're together and that we can learn from these together and build up our programs for our people. So, Oechka.
Let me see him. Thank you, Sam. Gonna call forward another relative, Leslie Eastwood, representing Samish.
Aishka, Aishka. My hands are lifted up to everybody that had a hand in making the presentation here today. The people that all showed up and all of the people that were participants in that. For me, I think you heard me speaking about the medicine that our traveling canoes and our canoes in general are for our community. And I'm hopeful that this work for everybody that was part of it is ongoing medicine for our people, that we all have our own struggles and things that we're dealing with in terms of coming into more wholeness, coming into more healing, and coming into more shared life with one another and amongst one another. That sense of belonging is so important to our people, that belonging to our ancestors and all the struggles and the ways in which we're here as Ho'ohuilxin, as survivors. So with that, I just once again want to I can't thank you enough for the good work that went into all of this.
Sam, thank you, Leslie. Next, we'll call upon Joseph Johnson, representing Nooksack and Lummi, I believe. Part of Lummi.
Thank you, Uncle. Representing, is this on? Representing Nooksack, Lummi, every tribal logo you saw at the beginning of that, I can find, each and every one of us can probably find an ancestral tie to all of our lands, you know, from the Columbia River all the way up to Haida, you know, and I just really want to take a minute to first of all start off by thanking you, Daryl, for allowing us to be a part of this journey, for allowing us to have a voice and to showcase who we are. And you know, it can't go without being said that you were a huge part of starting Rocole Creek Canoe Club. If it wasn't, you know, our big skip, Rick Edwards, always says that you're the one who really encouraged him to, you know, stick with it and skip and steer, and a lot of his stuff that he teaches us, the words shared with us, come from you still to this day. So, you know, you're a real big part of Rocole Creek Canoe Club, and just wanted to acknowledge that and let you know that, you know, I hope that we're doing our communities proud with the work that we do. You know, you see the healing that comes from each and every one of these videos, the different ways we can heal our communities and heal ourselves and heal each other. You know, one of the things that was taught to me as a paddler is when we go to different communities, we travel there to compete, to race, but we travel there to uplift that community. You know, my wife always says, before we even touch our paddles or our canoe, we circle up and we pray for healing for that community that we're racing in. You know, one of the things that was taught from the canoe way of life is what we bring out onto the water and our paddles, stirring up that water, mixing our spirit with all of the life that's out there, all that different power that's out there. You know, it takes each and every one of us to mix that up so it doesn't get stagnant and stale and lost. You know, we can lose so much if we don't participate, be a part of instead of apart from. So, you know, with that, you know, it's just really a good feeling to be here today. And I thank you, each and every one of you, for watching, listening, and you know, being a part of this project as well. You know, so Haichka.
Sim. And thanking you, Joseph. Calling up Diane Bear, if you could share a few words with us.
Good morning. Just want to thank you all for coming and watching the filming today, and want to really thank Daryl and his crew and Jordan and the filmmakers. I love the animation on some of those characters and stuff. It was pretty good. At first, the film was started about 1.5 years ago with us at the Schlangen Village, and it's kind of hard when you have a camera up in your face trying to put it all together, but I think Daryl and them did a pretty good job about taking some of the stuff out and making it. I love short films, and I really appreciated being able to come down here today and see all the tribes come together, because I've learned from other tribes on what we have to do, and our doors are always open up at Lummi for you guys to come take a look at the Chelangan Village, because I believe it's a program that's working to make families. It's a gated community, and it's been one of HUD's best practices that, that we were able to put together. We've had lots of other tribes, anywhere from California to South Dakota, come over and take a look at how the program works. And like I said, my phone's, my email, you can share it. We can come take a look at it. And I would love to come take a look at some of your guys' programs. The one that hit me was Tulalip, how wraparound, it's all got to work together. We can't be 8 to 4:30. We have to be 8 to 6. We have to be there Saturdays, Sundays. We have to be there for our community. And I think that's what we do with the Chelangan is, we're doing it from our heart, and we care about the families that come in the door. So, but I'm glad I brought my whole crew here. I closed my office today to allow the staff to come see and witness some of the stuff that I was able to see over the course of the filmings that Daryl's invited me to. So my hands go up to everybody today, and thank you.
Want to invite our other relative up, Marilyn Scott.
Aishka, thank you again. When Daryl approached me for the opportunity to, at that time, we were talking about bringing some of the stories about how the healthcare work that the tribes have done together began, because I had worked with his mother. She served on the Tribal Health Board at Lummi for many years, and fought for the services that Lummi did not have at that time. And so if I think back to that time, because I also worked for Indian Health Service for 5 years at Lummi prior to the tribe starting self-governance. And there were many of the services that were not available at that time when I began working with the Tribal Health Board and the original 4 tribes, and now we've expanded our Tribal Health Board to all 8 tribes in the region. Originally, it was the 4 tribes of Whatcom and Skagit County that formed the Tribal Health Board, and we worked together to expand the services available that some of the tribes did not have within our communities. Many of the Upper Skagit members would travel to Lummi to receive care from Lummi because we did not have all of the services that we have available now. So thinking about over the time that I have worked in the healthcare field, the changes that have happened, and I am so proud of having tribal people, our tribal members going into the healthcare careers, having Dr. Lane be the physician at Lummi. That was a dream of many of our ancestors, that our young people would go to school and come home and take care of our own people. So it's actually happening. Many of those dreams that our elders and our ancestors had in mind many of our leaders, at the time, Sam Kagi, the late Sam Kagi, all of our leaders, they all had a vision for the benefit of our people. And although many non-tribal people believe, and there's myths out there that to this day, there are still some individuals that see the American Indian as being those that are alcoholics and the ditches, and not with the development that the tribes have now. There are individuals that are not familiar with the sovereignty of each tribal government. Each of us, even within this local region, we're all different in that what services, what priorities that we have. We all are related in one way or the other. Joe is related to me on my family on the Tom side, the same as Antone is. But all of the tribal people in this room, there's one connection that many times we don't see each other every day, we don't see each other very often, but if you know your family tree, you are connected in one way or another. Although I was born and raised on the Lummi Reservation, my mother, when she asked my grandparents to raise me, she moved from Lummi to Swinomish and married at Swinomish, so she lived her whole life at Swinomish, and I just lost her this last year. And so the connections that I have at Swinomish, at Nooksack, at Tulalip, I have grandchildren that are from Tulalip and enrolled Tulalip members. It benefits all of us to work together. And I would just like to say that it's not just our tribal people that we're talking about. When the COVID-19 and the governor declared the public health emergency with COVID-19, he called all the tribal leaders, and we had a webinar meeting, and he wanted the leadership's opinion about closing down the state and closing down the businesses, and how the tribes felt about following that model and prevention of spreading of the COVID-19. In the beginning, the tribal leaders were, many of our economic development services are the drivers of what we're able to do for our people. And so in the beginning, some of our tribes wanted to resist the guidance that the governor felt was to close the schools, close the businesses. But in the end, the tribes followed suit. The tribes established resolutions. The tribal leaders talked together with each other, closed our gaming facilities down, closed our schools down. But we also were the ones that also helped, because we were able to get access to the vaccine through the Indian Healthcare Delivery System. And so the tribes shared with providing the vaccine for the school district personnel, the first responders that come into our communities. It was a way that we were able to protect all citizens, not only our tribal members. But that's an example of how the tribes are working together with the state, as well as our local regional health departments and at the federal level, bringing the resources from the federal level. And as I said in the video, that many times I've served on work groups, committees at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, but many times the decision makers that have the control of the financial resources that come to the state, come to the counties, the taxes that are generated. There's a lot of myths out there that tribal people do not pay taxes. And that's, that's just something that is a belief, but it is a myth. We're a citizen just like everyone else in Washington State. Whenever we go off the reservation and go shopping, we pay the state tax the same as everybody else. And so many times it's educating those individuals about how the federal government and the funds that come from the federal government to the state on behalf of tribal people, as the obligations that were established in the treaties originally, and the land that was given up in those early years, it's all coming back around. And so there is an obligation when there's one federal dollar that comes into the state needs to also meet that obligation for the American Indian Alaska Native citizen residing in Washington State. So I just share that little bit of information on what sovereignty means to us as tribal governments, and what we also know that we have an obligation as a tribal government to provide the protection for all citizens that are within our communities, and that includes non-natives, non-tribal members, those that live within our jurisdiction. We are responsible for the protection of all of those citizens. So, Haishka.
Thank you. We're going to leave the floor open for a little bit if anybody has any expressions that they want to come up and share. Any thoughts, any concerns? Floor is open.
My name is Charlie Olson. I go by Mac. A few of you know me here. I'm going to get out of the light. I'm a Samish. I'm also a Shimshian. My parents were both ways. And I grew up and was born here in Anacortes way back 86 years ago. And I'm probably one of the oldest people here today, and which doesn't make me bad because I love being alive. I think this was one of the most wonderful things that we have been able to do for our people, to show this of what was going on, how the people are surviving, how we're helping others, and how we will continue to help others. And thank you.
Thank you.
Hafshlahel, good day. My name is Michaela Vendiola. I have two Indian names given to me. The first is Koso. It means fire in Paiute. My second is Yaidawats, and it's honeysuckle in Lashutseed, and it comes from Swinomish. My parents are Michael and Michelle Vendiola. My father's Swinomish, my mother's Walker River Paiute. My paternal grandparents are the late Rudolfo Vendiola and Diane Villaluz Vendiola of Swinomish. And my maternal grandparents are the late Rodney George of Lovelock Paiute and Deanna Conway of Walker River Paiute. I serve as the Tribal and Community Liaison for North Sound ACH, and I'm just really honored to be here today, and huge thank you to Children of the Setting Sun Productions and your whole team. A wonderful day has taken place, and I'm just really grateful to the work that you all have done. Thank you. I hope you all have enjoyed watching these films. I know I learned a lot about the different ways to health and wellness and well-being that every tribe in this region are utilizing. What else? Yeah, I think I would classify myself as still like a new career professional, so still trying to find my way and footing in the work as a liaison. But I keep trying to familiarize myself with this work around sovereignty that was laid out by the leaders that have come before me. And I really am just a worker of the people, so yeah, just trying to find my way. I'm also a mother, and she is a citizen of Lummi Nation, so yeah, I'm doing right by her. So, Haishka, thank you. And if it's okay, I want to pass it to Candace to say a few words. Thank you.
Asiem, siem nestelacha siem, quanstinat senesnat. Aitsquile, good day. I'm Candace Wilson from Lummi Nation, and I have had the good fortune and the blessing to be a part of the North Sound Accountable Community of Health. The Accountable Community of Health, back in 2018, had an opportunity for a tribal and community liaison. And accountable communities of health come from the funding for Medicaid transformation through the Center for Medicaid Services, CMS dollars. It went out to all of the states, and here in Washington State, it's called Healthcare Authority. And Healthcare Authority brought forth 9 regions, and ours is the North Sound, 5 counties and 8 tribes. Well, my background is in tribal governance, and one day I knew that I always wanted to be a liaison for communities. And I saw this opening, and I said, well, maybe if I'm going to start, I got to start somewhere. And I seen this opening, and the more I looked into it, I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, we'll figure it out. But after I started working there, the first week, I was like, oh my gosh, Medicaid transformation, CMS. And I was like, the first person I thought of is like, Daryl, where are you? You got to be a part of this. And I was like, how can we share our story? And tribes were kind of forgotten about, and then they were thought about again. And we were fortunate to be able to have a tribal alignment committee. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, not like tribal leaders like Aunt Marilyn, who wears, lives, and breathes each and every one of us from a tribal community. She wears so many hats, I can't believe it. And I remember, okay, well, Daryl, will you please come to me with the first meeting? And this was even the day before I started work. My boss hired me, and she said, oh, I know you start tomorrow, Liz, but will you come to this meeting? And we're taught, when you're asked, you don't say no. So I said, okay, I'll go. And it was at Upper Skagit Social Services. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to sit back and trying to gauge what's going on here. What are they doing? What are they working on? What can I do to help? And then finally Daryl shows up, and he sits there next to me, and he's listening, and he's like, yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what's he thinking? How do I keep him involved in this? Because he knows our story. He knows our way of life as the whole person. And I was just a cheerleader. But after that first week at work, I looked to my boss. We checked in, and I gave an update. And there was so much to read, and I'm such a people person that our office was very independent workstations. And I'm like, I know myself too well that I need to get out with the people. And after I looked at it and saw that and understood that it was CMS, Medicaid, I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I'm like, I can't. All right, well, when I have the conversation with Liz, I just got to tell her what I feel and what my thoughts are, my recommendations. And part of it was to get tribes signed on. And tribes don't sign on with, the trust responsibility is between the federal government and the tribes, not a state agency, let alone a nonprofit. So I relayed that to my boss, and I said, so if I don't know if I can get tribes signed on, but you know what I can do? I can help coordinate those services that tribes already provide for our people. I can help educate and bring awareness on who we are and what we do, self-governance, self-determination, and sovereignty, to preserve, promote, and protect our way of life. That's what I can help do. So I literally told Liz, if you want me to be a token Indian, I can't do that. And she looked at me, and she took a breath, and I was like, ah. And I'm like, she goes, Candace, whatever you can teach us, whatever you can teach me, and we will help. And I'm like, I felt so much relief. And I'm like, okay then. And I'm here, and I'm like trying to connect Daryl and Liz, and I know they're both so busy, and one thing actually literally led to another. And we were envisioning the tribal alignment to be a part of Northwest Washington Indian Health Board. When she spoke about the 4 at the beginning, that was it, 4. Then it expanded to 5 and 7, and now there are 8. The thing about the 8 tribes of the Northwest is that they've always been known many policy and rule-making, not just here within Washington state, but more importantly, for tribes across the nation. And I know one of our former tribal leaders is here, and I pay much gratitude and respect. She's a veteran herself, and my dear friend and my mentor, my relative, Sandra Finkbonner. But if it wasn't for people like her, my cousin Daryl, Aunt Marilyn, and the tribal leaders, I'm sorry if there's others here that, and Lana, if it wasn't for them and the work that they are doing today, where would the work be tomorrow in the next 7 generations? The jobs that we have today, that you see tribal representation, is because of the work from yesterday, from Aunt Violet. And Aunt Marilyn's doing that right now as we speak, and all the great work that she's doing. The reawakening of our canoes for Canoe Journey, that's another story of wellness and our resilience. the canoe races and what that means. That was a good day on the water. Sometimes when they're out there and they fight to get around that buoy, it's a little fight, and that's why they call it war canoe. That was a nice day, actually. We have seen canoe races where they go at it. But you know what? By the time the day is over, we're all laughing, hugging, and sharing the good day of those teachings. So here today, we're trying to revitalize and revamp and remind people that we are still here. This is not the last of us, because we have an obligation and a responsibility for our grandchildren. You're right, Aunt Marilyn. It's not about today or tomorrow. My dad would say, it's not about you anymore. It's about my grandchildren. And I didn't get that. I'm like, but Dad. But I'm just so happy. I work for the Department of Health now. I'm the Tribal Policy Director. And guess what? I told my boss, Kristen Peterson, the same story. So we have rolled out the transformational plan, and it looks a lot like the Medicaid transformation plan that ACH did. So I look forward to bringing forth these opportunities for the 29 states here in the state of Washington to share more of our stories and share more of these gifts that we have to share and offer one another. It's not a gift until we give it away. So thank you. Thank you for honoring those gifts. Each and every one of you that have been a part of this, the films, and most importantly, your company. The best gift that you can give anyone is your presence. So, Haishka Siem. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Haishka. So at this time, we'll call forward the Setting Sun crew. Everybody come up, and we'll turn it over to Daryl. And you know, me and my son here recently came a part of this crew, and it's been a real honor to see these different projects come alive. And a lot of times we come and we'll share a prayer, share a song, and got to travel, do some travels with them, and you know, really see some good things happening. Not only, you know, with our tribes here, but down in Celilo, down, you know, all along, you know. And it's been a real experience, honorable experience to be a part of these projects. And, you know, we have these hopes and dreams for other things that's coming along. And, you know, I just put my hands up to each and every one of these ones that stand up here with us, and, you know, the love that they put into what they do. It's amazing. So I just want to, you know, thank Daryl for getting it all together, you know. Haishka.
I'm going to call a witness. I bossed Candy around. Did you see that? She. Yeah, but we'd like to do a little bit of work here. If we could have, first off, Liz and Michaela come forward, please. It's often said that we need to mark the beginning and end of our work with our gratitude. And Liz has been just a real sister to me in this work that we're doing. And we try to reach across communities with what we're doing. And her and I have been doing that now for I don't know how many years. This lifetime, we know. So, Aishka, would like to thank you, Michaela, for all your partnership over the last 3 or 4 years. So, Aishka. Have her put her down. This is a photo op. Anybody got a camera? You got a camera? There we go. Shake her hand. Good. It's okay.
What is this reluctance? Liz, move over by him. Excuse me.
Daryl couldn't. That was it.
That's good.
Thank you. Aishka.
Should we invite them all up, all the tribes up? They can come line up here. Yeah.
This time we're going to call upon all the tribes that was featured today. If you come up and line up right here. Two per tribe. Tulalip, Saxawaddle, Stillaguamish, Swinomish, Samish, Upper Skagit, Lummi. John Plummer. John Plummer. Nat Tatchell. So with that, we just want to put our hands up to each and every one that came out with us today, and really thank each and every one of you from the bottom of our hearts. Coming and being part of these projects that have been going on, and praying for your journey back to work or back home, or just pray for those those roadways to be clear for you guys, and to when you return back home, you find your home the way you left it. So with that concludes our day today, and thanking you all once again, and until we meet again, we'll put a comma right there. Hashkasiyam.